Hello. Today we're going to be talking about fall books, specifically my favorites and the ones that I want to read this fall. I know that I'm a little bit late when it comes to talking about fall books, and that is because I don't feel fall. This weather, I live in Texas, it's 90 degrees out. It's not giving fall. I don't feel it at all. There does come a point where you can no longer wait for the weather to give you the fall feels, and you just have to pretend it's fall anyway. And that point is mid-October, when your seasonal allergies kick in, even though we still don't have good weather. Because that is that point, I'm going to talk about my favorite books and my fall TBR. Let's get into it. So first off, we're going to talk about my favorite fall books. And these are ones that you've probably heard of, but I just want to talk about them anyway in case you haven't picked them up yet. First up is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, something like that. And this is probably like my favorite series of all time, The Raven Cycle. It follows Blue, who is the daughter of a psychic, and she lives in a family full of psychics, but she herself is not a psychic, other than the fact that she can communicate with ghosts and she can see them. And she also makes her family's psychic power stronger. And she ends up meeting the Raven Boys, who are this group of friends who are looking for ley lines, because that is where they imagine this dead ancient Welsh king is. And over the course of the book, their storylines become intertwined, and they end up forming this amazing friendship as they go on this really fun fallish quest. The reason why I love reading this in the fall, because it's very magical realism, and it's just like got this little thing in it, like a little atmosphere, if you will, that just feels so magical and fun, and I really associate that with fall. The Raven Boys all go to a boarding school, so there's a little bit of an element of academia, which is always fun for the fall time. And this is a very lyrically and beautifully written book that just also has such wonderfully developed characters. I will never stop raving about this book because it is so good. Next up, we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. Now, I may be a little bit biased about this because I have a very distinct memory of reading this on Halloween night when it was pouring down rain and we lost power that night. So I was reading this, I was like in the middle of the book on Halloween, reading by candlelight while it's pouring down rain. Because of that, this has a very special place in my heart. This is also a very lyrical book that very much heavily relies on the fall imagery, and you can even read the first page and it will just take you there. The premise of this book, if you aren't aware, but it's pretty popular, is there are two magicians who are competing. I can't remember what they're competing for, but they're competing. And they're competing within the Night Circus. So the Night Circus is this traveling circus that only appears at night, and it's all black and white, and there are a bunch of different acts, and we follow different members of the circus throughout this storyline. And it is just such a fun time, and just the reason I feel like this is perfect for fall is how much the imagery stands out. Like, it is just such a good time. Okay. Next, we have my favorite book in the world. This is my top book, and I will tell you why. But first, it is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Let me take a breath before I get into this. So this is my favorite book because of the characters, really. Specifically, there are two characters in here that have just like such a unique connection that you get to see throughout the book and see it develop, and that just kept me hooked. Like, I had to just keep reading simply just to see what would happen between these characters. And that is one of my favorite things in books. If you can write compelling characters, I will buy everything you write. But the reason why I think this is great for fall is because it follows this group of friends who are all like juniors, seniors in a college, and they're studying acting Shakespeare. So it's very academia, and it's very dark academia, because also one of their friends, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. So the framing of this book is our narrator Oliver has just been released from prison for this death, and the officer who like has been following this case for the past like I think 10 years has never really believed that they got the full story. So now that Oliver has been released, this officer comes and finds it and is like, please, now you have nothing to lose, tell me the truth. And then this is Oliver recounting the whole story. So we get that little framing device, which I find fun. It's just a great time. I love this book. I really love the writing, and I cannot recommend it enough. There's like a lawnmower, a leaf blower outside. I hope you can't hear it, but I'm going on with this anyway. So my last book is a middle grade one that I feel like you probably haven't heard of. If there's a book on here that you probably haven't heard of, it's going to be this one. It's a middle grade book that came out when I was in middle school, so this is like 10 years old, but it's a fun time. So it's called Far, Far Away by Tom McNeill, and it follows Jeremy Johnson, which is fun. And he is like kind of an outcast in his little small town, but he has one friend, and that friend is one of the Grimm brothers' ghosts. So this book is a lot of fun, and the reason why I think it's good for fall is because Jeremy and this very popular girl named Ginger end up kind of falling together because she eats a cake that is rumored to be bewitched because it's so good, and it's rumored to make you fall in love with the first person you see, who happens to be Jeremy. Throughout it, they're trying to uncover this secret of like what's really going on at this bakery that's like so amazing that everyone loves it. And so there's a little bit of a mystery going on there, and it's just so cozy and fun because it's a small town. There's a little bit of like, is it magic kind of thing going on. We've got the Grimm brother in it. So it's a fun, quick read because it's middle grade, that I reread often. My allergies, they go crazy. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the books that I want to get to this fall season section of this video, and these are all ones that I'm hoping to read in October because I feel like they all scream like before Halloween. Like these all feel like books that you should read during spooky season, and then after Halloween I no longer feel like it's spooky season. So these are hopefully coming up very soon. First one is A Discovery of Witches, which I guess has been turned into a TV show on AMC, which is cool. This follows a scholar named Diana Bishop, who is actually a descendant of witches. And she is doing her research one day in the library and then accidentally unleashes a lot of magical creatures. And she didn't mean to, so she tries to just like put it back and everything, and it doesn't work. It does not work. They are all out and they are all doing their crazy stuff. So one of the characters is Matthew Claremont, and he's a vampire who is very interested in this book that unleashed these creatures. And so they are kind of like thrown together. It seems to me to be like a little bit of a enemies to lovers type thing, perhaps. It's described as equal parts history and magic, romance and suspense. So it sounds like a fun time. It really feels like something I could just like curl up with a blanket if it wasn't 90 degrees out, but it seems like a really fun time. Next we have The Dark Academia classic, The Secret History. This is a book that I started reading last year, and then I think I got like 200 pages into it and was like, this is taking way too long for me to get through. And was it good writing? Yes. Was it a compelling story? I would say like on the macro level, I really wanted to figure out what's going on, but page to page, I was getting a little bored. I do really want to pick this up again. I feel like I have more patience for descriptive writing now. And I do think I'll really like it because I do love the Dark Academia setting. And I love an unreliable narrator, so I think this is up my alley. I just need to be a little bit patient with it. And I've actually finished my Goodreads goal already, so I don't have that pressure, because like sometimes at the end of the year it's either like give me everything that I can read very quickly, or it's like I already met my goal, I can just relax. So I think that's better, that this is my situation this year. And then the last book that I'm hoping to get to this fall season is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is about Alex Stern, who becomes an unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. She arrives in New Haven tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. But their occult activities are more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagination might conceive. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living. So that sounds very intriguing and perfect for spooky season. And I love Leigh Bardugo. I would also love to pick up her newest book, The Familiar, because it sounds so good. But we'll see if I have time. I'm currently on a book buying ban, which is so unfortunate. But once I finish all the books that I own and haven't read, we're going shopping. So these are all the books that I love for the fall season and want to read this fall season. So I hope you maybe added some books to your TBR or something. And I hope you have a great spooky season. And yeah, I will see you next week.